July 2014. Varna, Bulgaria. The Black Sea shimmered under the summer sun as thousands of young tourists descended on the coastal party capital. Beach clubs were loud, drinks were cheap, and the mood was light. But for 28-year-old Lars Mittank, this trip would become a descent into something no one could explain. By the end of his vacation, he would vanish into thin air, running in terror from an airport with a look on his face like he was fleeing something invisible. The CCTV footage of that moment has been viewed millions of times. But no one has ever seen Lars again. Who was Lars Mittank? Lars was a regular guy, born and raised in Germany. Soft-spoken, intelligent, athletic. An engineering student and avid football fan. No history of mental illness, paranoia, or erratic behavior. He was the kind of person you trust with your keys or your life. Friends described him as chill, grounded, and thoughtful, which makes what happened to him all the more terrifying. The vacation begins. In late June 2014, Lars flew to Bulgaria with 5 friends for a cheap getaway in Golden Sands, a touristy beach resort near Varna. For the first few days, everything was normal. Swimming, drinking, clubbing. No fights, no issues. Lars seemed completely himself. Until one night, they went out to a bar to watch a football match, Germany versus Belgium, and something shifted. The brawl no one saw. Lars got into an argument with other tourists over football team loyalty. Later, he told his friends he was jumped by a group of men and punched in the ear. But no one else saw it happen. No witnesses. No bouncers stepped in. Even his friends were confused. They'd already left the bar when it supposedly happened. Lars was now claiming he had been attacked and that one of his eardrums might be ruptured. He visited a local doctor who diagnosed him with a ruptured eardrum and prescribed an antibiotic called cefuroxime, commonly used, not mind-altering. The doctor advised him not to fly due to pressure issues with his inner ear. His friends offered to stay. Lars insisted he'd be fine. He stayed behind alone. While his friends flew home, Lars checked into a cheap hotel near the Varna airport, Hotel Color. That's when the strange behavior began. The night at Hotel Color. According to the hotel manager, Lars checked in quietly, but within hours, his demeanor changed drastically. He became paranoid, pacing the lobby, whispers to someone on the phone about being followed, hiding behind furniture, leaving the hotel suddenly in the middle of the night with no shoes or luggage. He returned around 5 a.m. visibly shaken. Security footage shows him pacing in the parking lot, stopping frequently, staring into the darkness as if listening to something no one else could hear. The call to his mother. During this time, Lars called his mother multiple times. "They're following me," he said. "Don't trust anyone. Cancel my credit cards." She later said he was not making sense and sounded frightened but not high, drunk, or mentally ill. He claimed to be hiding from people trying to kill him, though he couldn't say who they were. The day of his disappearance, July 8, 2014. The next morning, Lars took a taxi to Varna airport, planning to fly back to Germany after all. At the terminal, he visited the airport doctor to check if it was safe to fly. The doctor said yes, he was cleared for travel. Lars appeared calm, until a construction worker walked into the room. According to witnesses, Lars's expression changed instantly, eyes wide, frozen, then terrified. He mumbled, "I don't want to die here," then bolted from the room. The final moments on CCTV. Security cameras captured what happened next, a moment that has obsessed internet sleuths and investigators ever since. Lars sprinted out of the airport at full speed, leaving behind his backpack, his wallet, his phone, his passport. He ran across the parking lot, through a security gate, and into the woods. He was never seen again. What was he running from? Theories flooded in. Paranoia induced by cefuroxime? No confirmed history of reactions like his, and not at that dosage. Mental break? Sudden onset schizophrenia? No personal or family history. Symptoms started after head injury. Drug interaction or secret drug use? No toxicology. But he passed multiple security checks. No known drug use. Foul play? Stalking? Human trafficking? No evidence, but why was he so afraid of the construction worker? Something else entirely? The forest was searched. Police and volunteer groups scoured the surrounding woods. No blood. No clothes. No phone pings. No body. Over the years, sightings poured in, none verified. Some say he's living under a new identity. Others believe he died that day of exposure, wild animals, or worse. But there's no evidence of death. And no evidence of life. The most terrifying theory? That something changed inside Lars after that night at the bar. Something was implanted psychologically, emotionally, or spiritually. Whatever he encountered between the fight, the ear injury, and that night alone in the hotel wasn't visible to anyone else. But to him, it was real. The timeline of Lars Mittank's disappearance hinges on a few strange, unaccounted for hours. And it starts with a story that may not have happened at all. The alleged bar fight, the catalyst for everything that followed, remains one of the most disputed events in the case. Lars told his friends he was attacked, but no one else saw it. There were no witnesses, no visible bruises, no blood, and yet a doctor confirmed a ruptured eardrum. So what really happened in those hours between leaving the bar and arriving at the hotel? Because that's where everything changed. Reconstructing the night of the incident, Lars and his friends were drinking at a local bar in Golden Sands, watching a football match. A group of men, reportedly from a different region or country, began trash-talking the German team. An argument broke out. Lars, passionate about football, was involved. But the details are inconsistent. One friend said Lars was already outside when the fight happened. Another said Lars never mentioned getting hit until the next day. And no witnesses ever confirmed a physical altercation. The next morning, Lars said he'd been punched by 4 guys and injured his ear. But even this story would mutate. Later, he claimed that his attackers had been paid, sent after him. By whom? He couldn't say. The clinic visit. Lars saw a local doctor shortly afterward and was diagnosed with a ruptured eardrum. The injury was real. He was prescribed cefuroxime, a standard antibiotic, not hallucinogenic, not known to cause psychological side effects in low doses. But from this moment forward, Lars started to change. Quietly at first, then violently, the walk alone. When his friends returned to Germany, Lars checked into hotel color. That night, he disappeared from the hotel around midnight, barefoot and paranoid. He was seen on nearby surveillance cameras, looking over his shoulder, standing perfectly still, then suddenly sprinting, hiding behind garbage bins. At one point, he crouched behind a car, mouthing something silently to himself. He returned to the hotel just before sunrise, without explaining where he had been. He was missing for almost 6 hours. What happened in those hours? Here are 3 things that might have happened, and why none of them make complete sense. Drop of blood 1. He had a mental break. The timeline fits. Stress, dehydration, injury, all common triggers for brief psychotic episodes. But there was no prior history, and no evidence of mania, delusion, or psychosis during the trip. The change was sudden, almost surgically precise. He was still calm and lucid during certain moments, like checking in, calling his mom, and talking to airport staff. People who knew Lars say he was scared, not irrational. He was acting like someone who knew something was wrong, but couldn't say what. Passport control too. He was being followed. Lars told his mother to cancel his credit cards. To avoid police, he whispered on the phone like someone might be listening. Was he involved in something before the trip? There's no evidence of criminal activity or associations. But here's where things get strange. One theory suggests he may have witnessed or been pulled into something during the trip. A fight, a drug deal, or a trafficking ring, and was trying to get out. That might explain the fear. The construction worker trigger at the airport. His desperate barefoot escape. Hole 3. He encountered something unexplainable. Let's say, for just a moment, that his fear wasn't mental or criminal. Let's say it was existential. There are dark stories that emerge from tourist areas around the Black Sea. People disappearing after seeing something they shouldn't. Locals talking about shadow places, structures that don't exist on maps. Strange electromagnetic fields in the woods near Varna that interfere with electronics and memory. In his 6-hour absence, did Lars go somewhere? And if he did something follow him back? The voice on the phone. The transcript of the call between Lars and his mother hasn't been made public. But based on her interviews, we know this. He said, "They're following me." He refused to say who they were. He asked her to cancel everything in his name. And he ended one call with, "I don't know if I'm going to make it home." That line haunts her. because she believes he wanted to come home, that whatever was wrong, he wasn't responsible for it, and she still believes he's alive. One last thing. Hotel staff reported a disturbing moment during Lars's checkout. He asked if the hotel had another exit. When told there was only the front door, he became visibly anxious. He waited exactly 27 minutes in the lobby before leaving. Not pacing, not reading, just staring out the glass door, like he was watching for something. Varna Airport, July 8, 2014. Lars Mittank arrived at the terminal early. He had a flight booked back to Germany. He was cleared to fly, and for the first time in days, he seemed composed. But everything unraveled in a single moment, one so fast and unexplained, it remains one of the most haunting pieces of surveillance footage ever recorded. Inside the airport medical office. Before boarding, Lars visited the airport doctor to double-check that flying wouldn't aggravate his injured eardrum. Witnesses say he was calm, polite, coherent, until another man walked in. A construction worker, wearing a vest and boots, stepped into the waiting room. Lars looked at him once and everything changed. His posture stiffened. His breathing accelerated. He muttered something under his breath, possibly, "I don't want to die here." Then he stood up, shoved past the doctor, and ran. The run caught on CCTV. The footage is short. It shows Lars sprinting through the airport exit, abandoning his passport, his luggage, his wallet, his phone. Everything was left behind. He races through the lobby doors, past confused onlookers, and into the open air. Security footage picks him up outside the terminal, running at full speed across the parking lot. He doesn't stop. He runs to the perimeter fence, climbs it, and disappears into the surrounding woods. It is the last time anyone ever saw him. Theories about the construction worker. The man was never identified publicly. Airport staff claim he had no interaction with Lars. No words exchanged. No threatening movements. So why did Lars react the way he did? Some theorists suggest he recognized him, possibly from the bar fight. He believed the man was a plant, part of the group following him. The man may have been completely uninvolved, and Lars was experiencing a paranoid delusion tied to face recognition distortion. Or, perhaps most chillingly, he saw something we didn't. Frame by frame, analyzing the footage. Experts have broken down the footage from the airport. Here's what they've noted. Lars does not hesitate. There's no moment of doubt or confusion. He reacts instantly. He's running in fear, not panic. His form is tight, controlled, a survival sprint, not a confused outburst. No one chases him, not visibly, but his eyes, in the footage, keep scanning his sides like he's tracking something unseen. One behavioral analyst said, he wasn't having a psychotic break. He was fleeing something real. Whether or not anyone else could see it doesn't matter. Why did he leave his belongings? Here's what he left behind. Passport, iPhone, wallet with cash, luggage with all clothes and meds. There's no logical reason to do that, unless you believe you'll die if you don't leave right now. That kind of instant abandonment suggests one thing. Fight or flight override. It's the brain's most primal command. Forget everything. Just run. But run from what? Into the forest. After jumping the airport fence, Lars entered a heavily wooded area that leads toward farmland and sparse housing. The area was searched intensively by police, sniffer dogs, heat detection drones, volunteer search parties. They found no blood, no clothes, no broken branches indicating injury, no campsite, no phone signals, nothing. If he died of exposure or injury, his body should have been found. If he escaped, he would have needed cash, shelter, identity. He had none of those. So what happened? A terrifying timeline possibility. Let's look at a theory based on what little we do know. 1. Lars sees something real or imagined that triggers primal terror. 2. He flees into the woods. 3. Something happens in the forest, something that prevents him from ever contacting anyone again. If he had simply wanted to vanish, he would have done it with money, planning, and distance. This was sudden, chaotic, uncontrolled. The woods swallowed him, and they never gave anything back. The first reported sighting. Days later, a truck driver claimed to have seen a man matching Lars's description walking barefoot near the highway 8 miles from the airport. He said the man looked confused, sunburnt, but not injured. But no surveillance footage confirmed it. No photo, no DNA, no second sighting. The lead went cold, like every other one would. What the family believes. Lars's mother has never stopped looking. She has funded private investigations, offered rewards, and continued appearing in media. She believes Lars did not die that day. He may have lost his memory or been taken. And that someone somewhere knows the truth. And that final look. When you watch the footage, pause it at the moment just before Lars bursts through the glass doors. Watch his face. His eyes are wide, but not blank. His mouth is slightly open. He turns his head not to check for directions, but like he's sensing something to the side. The last thing the camera captures. A man running from something he can't name. And the moment he crosses that last frame, he becomes a legend. After Lars Mittank vanished from Varna airport, Bulgarian police searched the forest for days. But what began as a missing person case would soon spiral into something much stranger. Because Lars wasn't just gone. He was never found. And despite dozens of reported sightings across multiple countries, not one has been confirmed, not by CCTV, bank records, passport activity, or DNA. It's as if he stepped outside of the map. The first sightings, a pattern of ghosts. Within weeks of the disappearance, tips began coming in. A barefoot man seen walking alone on a country road outside Varna. A disoriented traveler sleeping behind gas stations. A German-speaking stranger refusing help from drivers. But each time investigators arrived, the man was gone. One driver said, "He looked right at me, then just slipped behind a tree. When I stopped the car, he was nowhere." Crossing borders? 2 months later, a reported sighting came in from Romania across the border. A backpacker swore he saw a man who looked exactly like Lars at a hostel in Constanza. Thin, sunburned, speaking very little, paid in cash, left before dawn, barefoot. Police found nothing, but hostel staff recalled a man who refused to sign in. He had one request. "Do you have a room without mirrors?" The sighting in Switzerland. In 2016, a blurry photo surfaced on Facebook from Biel/BN, Switzerland. The post read, "I don't know why, but I feel like I've seen this man before. He's silent. He watches trains leave the station. Always alone." The image showed a gaunt man with long hair standing by the tracks. Facial comparison software matched him 84% to Lars. The account that posted the image was deleted within 48 hours. The user never responded to messages. Why the sightings might be real. Despite the lack of proof, investigators noted something strange. Nearly all reported sightings came from small towns near forests or coastlines. Most described him as barefoot or wearing old clothes. Some said he refused food or money. But here's the strangest part. In every sighting, the man was described as silent, watching, listening for something. The shadow figure theory. In a podcast interview, a Bulgarian police officer said off-record, "There were stories, nothing official, but some locals believed he wasn't alone out there." Farmers reported dead birds found in spirals, sudden blackouts of electricity and signal in areas near the last known search zones, sounds of heavy breathing or whispering at night with no visible source. One woman claimed she saw two figures moving through the trees together, one in front, one behind. The one behind didn't walk. It floated. Another case, Romania, 2011. 3 years before Lars vanished, a young man named Victor Petrescu went missing under similar circumstances. Left a crowded event. Walked into the woods. Allegedly seen sprinting into the darkness after staring at a construction light. Was never found. His last phone call. "It's too loud. Even the air is screaming." And his last text, sent 6 minutes later. "The light wants to be inside me." Authorities never made a connection to Lars's case. But the forest where Victor vanished? It shares the same ley line axis as Varna. Ley lines and magnetic fields. Some theorists believe Lars entered a geomagnetic pocket, an area where natural energy disrupts the human nervous system. Bulgaria is full of these ancient sites, caves, fault lines. And near Varna is Cape Kaliakra, a known hotspot for navigation failure and compass drift. It's also home to a fortress ruin where prisoners were once pushed to their deaths. For hearing voices from the sea. Was Lars drawn to something? One French theory. Lars didn't flee from danger. He was pulled into it. People who spiral into mental collapse rarely plan their escape with this much precision. And they almost never stay hidden for this long. But Lars left his belongings like they were infected. Looked behind him like something was following. Entered the forest like he was answering a call. A forgotten message. In 2019, a German traveler shared an eerie experience. He had stayed in a cabin deep in the Bulgarian woods. Inside, scratched into the wood above the bed. "I didn't run far enough." Beneath it, a faint spiral drawn in black marker. No one knows who wrote it. but the cabin sits 8 miles from where Lars was last seen. When a person vanishes, we usually assume it's into silence. But in the case of Lars Mittank, what came next was not silence, but sound. By 2017, most official efforts to locate Lars had faded. But a growing online community of amateur investigators, remote viewers, and digital archivists took over. One of them, an audio engineer from Poland, may have uncovered something that no one has been able to explain: the forest recording. The engineer, posting under the username @signalingray, claimed he had set up parabolic microphones in a remote section of forest 10 kilometers north of Varna. He was testing ambient wildlife frequencies. But one night, the recorder picked up unusual sound patterns and something else. At exactly 3:38 a.m., a human voice whispered, distorted, "Don't follow the light, it doesn't stop, it doesn't sleep." Then, for exactly 14 seconds, the microphone captured a heavy, wet-breathing sound, a burst of infrasound low enough to trigger nausea, and barely audible beneath the static, a voice whispering, "Mom." The clip was analyzed by 3 separate acoustic specialists. All 3 reported the voice bore strong vocal fingerprint similarities to Lars Mittank. The infrasound hypothesis. Infrasound, low-frequency sound below the range of human hearing, can cause dizziness, anxiety, visual hallucinations, paranoia, feelings of being followed. Some scientists believe that natural infrasound fields occur near tectonic fault lines and certain caves, both present near Varna. Is it possible Lars was exposed to such a field and was driven into a state of terror? Or did he hear something real that simply can't be recorded by anything but memory? Psychological theories, dissociative fugue. Some psychiatrists believe Lars suffered from a rare dissociative disorder triggered by trauma or stress. Dissociative fugue can cause a person to lose memory, wander far from home, assume a new identity, forget who they are entirely. But even fugue has limits. Sufferers eventually reintegrate. Most are located within days or weeks. None exhibit lifelong vanishing. Lars left no trace. No hospital check-ins. No travel records. No fingerprints logged. No one anywhere has ever claimed to be him. So if it was fugue, where's he now? The survivalist theory. Another theory, Lars survived but chose isolation. Some believe he became feral, living off the grid in the forests of Eastern Europe. But this raises more questions. With no supplies? No knife, tent, shoes? How did he survive winter? Why didn't he ever reach out, not once, to his family? Those who believe this theory say he's not reaching out because he doesn't think he's safe yet, or because he doesn't know who he is anymore. But others believe something won't let him reach out. The repeating image. An artist from Vienna contacted Lars's mother in 2019. She claimed she'd been painting images seen in her dreams, not as a medium, but as part of a dream therapy course. In her final canvas, she painted a barefoot man in torn jeans, standing in the center of a forest clearing. Behind him, a shape black, rising like smoke. In front of him, a spiral carved into the dirt. When asked who the man was, she replied, "I don't know, but he's been waiting for someone." When shown a photo of Lars, she began to cry. The voice returns. Months later, @signalingray released a second audio clip recorded 3:33 a.m. on the same forest mic. This time, no voice, only the sound of something breathing in a circle, approaching the microphone, then retreating. Over and over. For 6 minutes. The sound pattern matched the exact pacing pattern found in animal enclosures when an animal is under extreme distress. As if something was walking in a loop and couldn't leave. A man in the trees. In 2020, a German hiker in northeastern Bulgaria reported seeing a man crouched in the trees, partially naked, watching him. He shouted, but the man turned and ran. He had no shoes, no backpack, no ID. He only muttered one word as he disappeared. Too late. The forest remains silent. Official searches have stopped. The government no longer comments. The case is open but effectively cold. Yet something in shadow, in wind, in signal still stirs where Lars was last seen. And that forest doesn't forget people. It just keeps them quiet. The deeper we go into the disappearance of Lars Mittank, the clearer it becomes that this case isn't just about vanishing. It's about a man unraveling in real time, leaving behind fragments that hint at a truth too terrifying or too incomprehensible to face. And one of the strangest fragments was discovered inside an abandoned chapel miles from where he was last seen. But first, we need to examine the state of Lars's mind, not from the outside, but from someone who saw it up close. The hostel roommate. In 2019, an anonymous tipster emailed a German investigative journalist with a subject line that read, "I stayed in the same hostel as Lars the night before he disappeared." The email came with proof. A photo of the hostel room booking chart from July 7, 2014, a receipt with both names, and a page from a diary in German describing the night in question. The sender asked to remain anonymous, but the details matched perfectly. Here's what he wrote. "I only spoke to him briefly. He looked normal, clean, not drunk or stoned. But when I turned off the light that night, I heard him whispering. I thought he was on the phone, but he wasn't. He kept saying, 'Don't let them hear your name. They remember names.'" The whisper theory. In several psychological evaluations of dissociative episodes, name obsession appears as a pattern. A fear that someone knowing your full name gives them power. A belief that identity is a weapon that can be used against you. Paranoia centered around being tracked by sound, not sight. Lars's whispers recorded by hotel staff were not loud. They were intentional, almost like he believed something could hear him through walls. The chapel wall. In 2016, urban explorers entered a decaying Orthodox chapel about 12 kilometers from Varna Airport. The building had been abandoned for decades. In the back room, beneath collapsed rafters, they found something strange. A message written on the stone wall in faded black ink. "Ich bin hier. Aber ich bin nicht ich. I am here, but I am not me." Next to it, scratched lightly into the plaster, was a spiral. Not painted. Etched. Precise. The message appeared recently made, less than a year old at the time of discovery. A handwriting analyst compared the inscription to known samples of Lars's writing. 80% probability match. The timeline fractures. If the chapel message is real and Lars wrote it, then it means he survived for at least 2 years. He was moving intentionally, not wandering. He was still afraid, but lucid enough to express himself. And yet, he didn't contact anyone. Why? Was he hiding from someone? Or something? The mother's instinct. Lars's mother, Sandra, has repeatedly said in interviews, "I don't think he's dead. I think he's out there. But he doesn't believe he can come home." She described a recurring dream. He's in a hallway with no windows. There's a red light above the door, but he won't walk through. He's waiting for me to say something, but I don't know what it is. Psychologists dismiss it as grief, but viewers of the CCTV footage say the same thing. He looked like someone waiting for a signal, not just running, waiting for something to happen. The border station incident. In 2018, a man matching Lars's appearance was detained at a border crossing near Serbia. He refused to speak. When asked for ID, he wrote, "I'm not real anymore." The man disappeared from custody the next day. Officially, he never existed, but leaked records show the officer who booked him quit the following week, citing a personal breakdown. The booking photo, never released publicly, was described by the officer's partner as not Lars exactly, but it looked like someone trying hard not to look like him. The sound in the chapel. In 2020, a paranormal investigator entered the chapel with a sound recorder. The chapel had been sealed for years, but inside, the equipment picked up a faint hum, rhythmic pulsing. It repeated every 19 seconds. Then, at the 6-minute mark, a voice whispering, "Tell her not to wait," followed by a sound like footsteps behind the wall. But there are no rooms behind that part of the chapel. Only solid stone. Theories multiply. At this stage, the story of Lars Mittank splits into camps. 1. Mental breakdown camp. He suffered a dissociative psychosis and wandered until he died or assimilated into homelessness. 2. Survivor camp. He escaped something or someone and is alive, hiding from danger or delusion. 3. Paranormal camp. Lars encountered something beyond understanding. A place, a presence, or a pattern that changed his perception of reality permanently. Each theory explains some of the facts. None explain all of them. The real horror? It's not just that Lars disappeared. It's that in the age of surveillance, smartphones, cameras, and data, he left no trace. Except for one final message in a chapel most people forgot existed. "I am here, but I am not me." By 2021, the Lars Mittank case had become internet legend, a modern myth forged from a real man who vanished in real time on camera in broad daylight. But in the spaces where official records end, the internet began to find its own ghosts. What emerged was something stranger than disappearance. A pattern tied to airports, forest borders, and blurred faces. And one face in particular caught the attention of an AI analyst. The video clip that shouldn't have matched. In February 2021, A data analyst working for a small private research collective in Finland ran a batch of missing persons facial recognition tests using AI trained on low-resolution footage. One of the clips, an old 2017 video from an anonymous Eastern European YouTube channel, showed a man sitting on a bench at a train station in Odessa, Ukraine. The man doesn't speak. He doesn't move much. He simply stares ahead for exactly 12 minutes. Then he walks out of frame. The algorithm flagged him as a 94.2% match for Lars Mittank, higher than any other lead to date. But there was something off about the video. He never blinked. In the full 12-minute clip, the man doesn't blink once. He occasionally shifts in his seat. His hands twitch as if he's in pain, but his eyes remain unmoving. Analysts ran motion detection overlays and ocular tracking software. No blinking, no micro-expressions, no typical eye muscle fatigue. A neuroscientist called it biologically improbable, bordering on impossible unless he was trained or not fully aware. The uploader of the clip? Account deleted. Email domain scrubbed. Video reuploads flagged by unknown entities and removed for violence. Though there's none. The Odessa incident. The bench shown in the video was identified. Local journalists visited it in early 2022. Beneath the seat, in the stone ledge, they found something scratched into the paint. "Don't let him in." The phrase was written in German. The only other mark nearby? A small spiral etched into the concrete. Other airport disappearances. Researchers cross-referenced Lars's case with other strange airport vanishings in the region. They found at least 4 other instances where the following occurred. 1. Male travelers aged 25 to 35. 2. Suffered an incident involving confusion or injury. 3. Disappeared near forested zones close to an airport. 4. Were last seen moving quickly, often barefoot or disoriented. One case involved a man in Slovakia who left his boarding line, dropped his bag, and sprinted into the woods. He was found a week later, dehydrated and silent, but alive. He would only say, "It got quiet. That's when I heard it the most." He never spoke publicly again. The signal analysis. Around the Varna airport, several hobbyist radio trackers have picked up unusual low-frequency pulses on odd-numbered days around 3:33 a.m. The pulses are repetitive, non-random, contain a drifting echo, not unlike infrasound. One signal specialist described it as like hearing someone breathing through water from the other side of a wall. When reversed and filtered, one pattern emerged. The shape of the waveform? A spiral. Who's controlling the spiral? There's no official explanation for any of it. But a pattern is now clear. People see or hear something. They experience a shift in reality, either internal or external. Then they run not from a place but from a signal, a shape, a presence. The spiral has appeared in chalk, in blood, in tree bark, in a chapel wall, in a waveform. It's not symbolic anymore. It's geometric infection. What if Lars was just first? Maybe Lars wasn't cursed. Maybe he wasn't even special. Maybe he was just the first person who listened long enough, stared too long, walked too deep, thought about the spiral after it stopped showing up. And then it came back. A final transmission. In late 2022, a sound file appeared briefly on a darknet audio archive, titled Mittank Wave. Length 3 minutes, 33 seconds. Removed after 5 downloads. Accounts locked. Description: found on SD card left in German train station locker. Play at own risk. Content as described by those who heard it. Rain falling. The voice breathing through static. And this in German. I never stopped running because the thing I saw had my face. But it blinked. By 2023, nearly a decade after Lars Mittank vanished, the digital community that had formed around his case had evolved into something more. Not just forums, but field investigators, tech trackers, and data archaeologists. And then came the first real physical clue in years. It didn't come from a tip line, not from a psychic, not even from a local. Came from the air. The drone discovery, April 2023. A Bulgarian film student was flying a drone near an abandoned agricultural facility 11 kilometers from Varna Airport, working on a documentary about urban decay. While reviewing footage, she noticed something odd in a frame that lasted less than a second. A bare footprint, pressed clearly into dry, hardened mud. And next to it, something scratched into the earth. A spiral. She returned the next day. The footprint was gone, weathered by rain. But the spiral? Still there, cut into the soil, roughly 2 meters wide. GPS coordinates hidden in the spiral. A local tech collective ran an overlay of the spiral's shape. By chance or design, the curve of the spiral matched a vector path across 5 prior reported sightings of Lars from 2015 to 2022. Each point, when connected, formed a larger spiral centered back at Varna Airport. In short, the sightings weren't random. They were radiating outward from the origin, like ripples. Then, Lars's phone turned on. 12 days after the spiral discovery, a strange notification pinged the Mittank family's mobile service provider in Germany. A SIM-less ping registered from a device matching Lars's old phone ID, a model discontinued in 2013 in Buzău, Romania. The signal lasted 43 seconds. Too brief to triangulate. But it was real. The phone had been reported dead and unrecoverable since 2014. Now suddenly it wanted to be heard. The Romanian forest. A search team drove to the approximate location of the signal ping. They found a decomposed animal carcass arranged in a circle of stones, burned tree bark in a spiral shape, and a single, thin earplug wrapped in what looked like torn shirt fabric. The make of the earplug matched Lars's prescription for his ruptured eardrum. There was no phone, no other tech, and the team reported compasses behaving erratically. One drone crashed without warning, the batteries fully charged. What lives in the shape? At this point, some researchers began pushing a new theory. The spiral is not a signature. It's a boundary, a containment zone, a trap, a gate. Each time it appears, it seems less drawn by a person, and more like a natural reaction or a signal flare, like a memory forming under the ground. The survivor's interview. In late 2023, a man came forward claiming to have seen Lars in 2015 but was too afraid to speak until now. His name was withheld. He said he was hiking alone near the woods outside Dobrik, north of Varna, when he heard footsteps. He turned and saw a man watching him from between the trees. He was barefoot, thin. His arms were shaking like he hadn't eaten in days. But his eyes, they weren't scared. They looked like he was listening to something, like he was waiting for someone else to speak first. He turned to run, but before he did, the man said one thing. It doesn't stay in the forest. It learns the path back. And then the map. One Redditor posted a map titled spiral_overlay.go, a projection of all confirmed spiral carvings, chalk drawings, etchings, and witness sketches tied to the Mittank case. When overlaid on a topographic map of the region, they form a massive, imperfect spiral stretching from Varna to Constanța to Bucharest to Sofia, back to the Black Sea. And in the dead center, a single abandoned building. The radio transmission tower at Cayman Bryag, decommissioned in 1998, and marked according to an old Urban Explorer's photo with a single phrase etched in metal. He stopped being him. We remembered him anyway. The spiral is closing. Each sighting moves inward, not outward. The vector path is contracting. Some believe this means Lars is trying to come back. Others believe he never left. He's just circling, and we're the ones drawing him closer. By late 2023, the search for Lars Mittank had taken on the shape of the very symbol found at the heart of the mystery, a spiral. Not linear, not random, but circling something hidden at the center. And then a journal surfaced. Not online, not in a forum, but found in the real world, and it changed everything. The book in the wall. In December 2023, 2 renovation workers clearing out an abandoned farmhouse near Veliko Tarnovo, Bulgaria, discovered something strange. A softback journal wedged between insulation and the outer brick wall, wrapped in a decaying grocery bag. No title, no author, but page after page of German handwriting, scratched, repetitive, and increasingly frantic. Inside the front cover, a name written once, then crossed out. L. Mittank. The contents of the journal. Linguists and psychologists were brought in to analyze it. The handwriting matched known samples of Lars's with 94% probability. The contents? Not a travel diary, Not a confession, but a collection of disjointed thoughts and drawings, looping phrases and sketchy illustrations of trees with hollow mouths, people with no eyes, circular rooms made of bone, a figure labeled only as the listener. Selected translations. You see the spiral because it sees you first. I left my body, but it came with me. I ran and it followed, but not behind. It walks beside now. There are other voices in the soil. They're not buried. They're remembering. I am not me, but I remember the shape of me. And on the final page, you will find this. Because I wanted you to, but don't follow the path I made. It goes in, but it doesn't lead out. The ink that doesn't match. Ink analysis revealed something else. 3 pages, the ones describing the listener, were written not with pen ink, but with a black, metallic substance that oxidized unnaturally under light. It left behind a trace radiation signature, low level but unusual for paper material. A chemist described it as nothing we'd associate with normal writing tools. The last known use of that compound? Used in Cold War-era radio frequency shielding. The tower transmits again. On the night of January 8, 2024, the 9-year anniversary of Lars's disappearance, a forgotten radio tower in Cayman Brayag suddenly emitted a signal. The tower had been dormant since 1998. The signal was faint, repeating, low frequency. Captured by a passing amateur radio operator, the pattern translated to 3, 3, 3. Mutter. Niktich. Mother. Not me. The listener. In the journal, Lars describes a being he begins to see near the edges of sleep, never moving, never blinking, never closer, until he tries to leave. The listener doesn't chase. It waits. It listens until you forget what your name means. He implies this being doesn't speak, but makes you speak for it. That the spiral isn't a symbol. It's a way to pull sound from memory. And the longer you stay in its presence, the less of your own thoughts remain. Echo cases, the spiral syndrome. In 2024, Bulgarian psychologists identified 3 separate individuals, each found wandering barefoot, nonverbal, and muttering about circles in the soil. Each case involved a missing person from another region, showed memory loss, and all 3 had spirals drawn on their skin, burned into the dermis, not tattooed. When played audio recordings from Lars's journal recitation, all 3 began whispering the same phrase. I saw the face. It was mine, but drawn wrong. The map closes. The spiral pattern traced from the sightings and symbols has closed a full loop. Its center? An overgrown, locked cellar in the basement of a destroyed warehouse near the airport. The property is sealed, but explorers who approached it report no GPS signal within 20 meters. Phones glitching. And one man who said, it's quiet, but the kind of quiet that listens back. A final page? One last scrap of the journal was found folded into a crevice in the binding. It read, if you see this, then I lost. It remembered louder than I did. It drew me all the way in. And now it knows my voice. And at the bottom, smudged in ash. The next one will look like me, but it won't be me. It's been over a decade since Lars Mittank sprinted out of Varna airport and disappeared into the trees. No confirmed sightings. No body. No answers. And yet, his story never faded. In fact, it grew, like the spiral itself, a replicating, returning, infecting. And in 2024, it spoke again. The final sighting, Vienna, Austria, March 2024. A man walking past an abandoned rail yard in Vienna saw someone standing perfectly still near the fence. He pulled out his phone to film, thinking it was an art installation. The man didn't move, didn't blink. Then the figure turned. The man ran. But later, when reviewing the 12-second clip, he realized what shook him. The man looked almost exactly like Lars, only older, thinner, and sunken. He was barefoot, and behind him, carved into the fence in jagged lines, a spiral. The video went viral. Thousands said it was Lars. Others said it was something wearing his face. The original poster deleted their account within 24 hours. No one's heard from them since. The voicemail. 2 weeks later, Lars's mother received a voicemail from a restricted number. The message lasted only 6 seconds. Static, breathing, then, don't wait. It's not me anymore. The voice? Distorted, but unmistakably, heartbreakingly, her son's. Phone records confirmed the signal came from within 3 kilometers of Varna airport. But the number? Lars's original phone number. Deactivated since 2014. The phone that shouldn't work. Investigators tracked the ping to a burnt clearing behind the old runway site. There, beneath scorched soil and dead moss, they found a plastic phone case melted, charred scraps of a 2013 Samsung battery, a SIM tray embedded in blackened wood. Inside the casing, a paper scrap folded tightly. On it, written in pencil, "It's not the forest. It's the thing under it. It hears names. It drew mine. Now it's drawing yours." The echo theory. Psycholinguists now believe the spiral isn't just a symbol, it's a phonetic memory trap. Each person who hears about Lars, speaks his name, or dreams of the symbol becomes a carrier. Not cursed, not haunted, just drawn into remembering him. And the more you remember Lars, the less of him there is left. Until what remains is only the memory of fear, of faceless, voiceless, blinking from inside a stranger's reflection. The ending no one expected. In May 2024, a child in rural Germany was found sleepwalking in the woods. When she was safely brought home, she was asked why she left. She said, "He needed someone to listen. He forgot how to speak. He said he used to have a name." When asked what his name was, she paused, then drew a spiral in chalk. She didn't know about Lars. Her parents didn't either, until they saw the video. And then they heard the story. And now they remember him too. So where's Lars Mittank? No one knows. Maybe he died in those woods that night, and what we've seen since are only echoes. Maybe he survived and was transformed by something ancient, invisible, and hungry. Or maybe Lars is still running, but not from death. From the thing that followed him out of the forest. The thing that knows your name once you say his. But one thing is clear. He didn't vanish. He was drawn. And if you've watched this story, if you've spoken his name, if you've stared too long at the spiral, then maybe it's drawing you too.